Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 media network in the United States of America. And also Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and his good old boys down south. In fact, they're still counting the vote because Big C, I think, was hungover after the NFC Championship game down there. Big C, Atlanta blowing out Green Bay. But I also want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. We hope you can keep listening. Donald Trump's talking about building that wall anyway, even though he's for all the people. I do want to say thank you so much for listening across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. And of course, my good old boys from Canada, we love you so much. I'm going to try it one more time for 2017. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. Big C, I think that's the best I've sang since that good old boy in the black hole dumped that green moonshine on me, Big C. So hopefully that sounds good. But you know, there's no one I love more than the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, it's good to have you back. How you doing down south, Big C?
I don't know, Charles. I got to stop getting off planes down in New Orleans to tell you that. I thought I was out there doing some field work, found out I woke up in a gutter. New Orleans ain't always kind to you. You might have a good time, but you don't always remember those times.
Yeah, but what is this story about all those beads you were trying to pack through the airports, Big C? Where do you get the beads from?
I had to use them to cover up the body because I don't know where my shirt.
I thought it was just the women that raise their shirts, not the men, Big C. But hey, all's fair in love and war. I want to say today is a beautiful January the 25th, 2017. And I want to say today is such a gorgeous Hump Wednesday. We appreciate so much of what's happening in the world of sports. We just had our new president inaugurated, Donald Trump. And obviously the crowd that saw Donald Trump was a lot smaller than the crowd that marched against him, Big C. But they want to deny that. They say, you're going to believe us or your lying eyes. But obviously we do want to see our president do well because our country does better. But it's amazing how many people marched against him then showed up to support him, Big C. So that's funny. We also have the Oscars coming up in February. They have the nominations out right now. And we started this right about last year. We had the great Chris Rock. He talked about hashtag Oscars so white. Now there's more nominations of people of color with the Oscars. Hopefully that'll lead to more diversity in Hollywood. And I do want to say we're looking forward to the Super Bowl coming up, Super Bowl 51 down in Houston. Now hopefully you won't get stuck in the airport with the beads in the bag, Big C, the way you did coming from the championship game. Your thoughts on what's important to you, Big C? How'd you like the NFC championship game?
Well, we're talking, it was an outstanding game, for the first 5 minutes. After that, it got a little dismal.
Yeah.
Green Bay came into that game, the team just had so many injuries, when you look at it.
Yeah.
This was a team that had been playing with Band-Aids and bubblegum for about 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Then all of a sudden, some of it broke loose. And, when they missed that opening field goal, you kind of figured they were in trouble.
Yeah.
Because Garvin made those 2 consecutive field goals against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That failed them into that championship game. But, a rightful team always wins the championship game and make it to the Super Bowl, Charlton. The Falcons were just as hot as the Green Bay Packers. But
Oh, yeah.
people overlook the Falcons because of Aaron Rodgers' mystique.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at the mystique of Aaron Rodgers. When he's hot, he's one of the hottest gunslingers around. But
Yeah.
Matt Ryan's been that way all year. And when you look at the receiving core of the Falcons with, Sanu and Jones.
Julio's amazing.
They got the 2 young running backs, Coleman. These guys do such a wonderful job.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to the game. People don't realize that, that was the key to the game against the Packers is that the running game and those backs coming out of the backfield. If you stop those, you can always shut down wide receivers, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you have running backs that can be multiple threats, that you can line up in the slot, line up wide, they can also catch that swing pass.
Yeah.
But they can hit those quick hitters up the middle. And that's what the Falcons present, Charlton.
Well, I tell you what, Big C, just watching Julio Jones, this guy, if you look at 2 games combined, you add it up, I think they were playing Carolina earlier in the year when he had 300 yards receiving. That's 3 games of work for most receivers. And then he had 180 yards on 9 catches, Big C, against a Green Bay defense that had been playing lights out football. I don't know how anyone can stop this guy. You would think the game plan would be get this kid the ball at least 12 times. Not throwing to, but get it 12 times in his hands, even if you got to hand it off to him, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you also got to look, Charlie. Green Bay lost this top corner that they had left on the roster in that first series of the game.
Yep.
So they were already down. They were down 2 starters coming into the game from the regular season. So, before the first quarter was over, Charlton, 3 of the original starting defensive backs in the Green Bay secondary was gone.
Yeah.
Matthews has been hampered all year long, and he's going to need surgery on his pectoral.
Yeah.
As soon as the season is over, you had McNary playing with a cast on one hand, so he was a one-handed defensive lineman. So, when you think about all the uphill battle that they had to fight, Green Bay, you got to take your hat off to Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
People will always talk, well, he's only made it he's making it to these championship games. Well, he like Marvin Lewis. You got to look behind him and see how many coaches are looking up at him, wanting to be having the success level that both of them have had.
Yeah. Well, Big C, that's always important. He was also in the hot seat a while ago, but then he went on that run and kind of saved his job. I want to say this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive one, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C's...
Yeah. The city was on the hot seat.
Yeah.
When was the last time that a team made it to the NFC or AFC championship game without a starting tailback?
Yeah.
It's never happened before. They played Ty Montgomery, a wide receiver.
Yeah.
They played the other kid, number 22, out in Nebraska, the rookie.
Yeah.
Who was a fullback.
Yeah.
And so they went into this game without a running back. So all they've had is the passing game. So it's been very easy to defend Green Bay, but they still won 9 consecutive games.
Oh, yeah. I think it is important about that, but you still tried to cut me off, Big C. I was going to say, when they go down to the Escalade dealership, they're going to say that, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, and Big C's is the one with all the beads in the back. They couldn't get it vacuumed up out of the seats, Big C. What is it again about New Orleans and the beads? I don't understand it. I've never been there.
Well, they simulate some body part or something.
Okay.
That's what they're doing. But those beads, people know you're coming when you get out. Somebody runs when you walk into the airport going across the crosswalk, and you got all this reflection noise and clamping going on.
Yeah.
That guy's out blind at death, That's all I can say.
Well, that's as crazy as the LA Raiders talking about going to Las Vegas. And you always hear about what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I think it's one of the most partying towns in the world. And now they're going to take a franchise that's known for partying back in the day, and they want to put them good old boys down there in Las Vegas. Talk about guys missing Sunday, It's amazing, Big C. I just think that's crazy. But I just want to talk about this one quick thing that I learned over the weekend. I like to read a lot, and I've come across this new word in my thesaurus. It's called alternative facts. And I learned that from the great Kellyanne Conway, and she's a counselor to President Donald Trump. And they say alternative facts is when you tell a lie, but if enough people are dumb enough to believe it, then it's the truth, Big C. Have you heard about that term before?
I'm about to start telling you. Especially if I'm in court, I'm going to say,
Who was it, Perry Mason?
this is what the president used.
Yeah.
What we can use because the highest person in the land can use alternative facts to explain his lie is not a lie.
Yeah, that's a good. Every man is going to want to use that term, especially when they come home with beads in their suitcase, and the wife didn't pack beads when they left for New Orleans, Big C. So alternative facts, that's the new word for 2017. And Big C. I hope he doesn't use the word alternative facts around the nuclear codes, Big C. That's not something you want to play with. But I do want to say that, it's always exciting when you have the chance to start something new where there's a president. We do appreciate the great President Obama and the class that he showed in the White House. But I do want to take the time to say I love this country. I love everything about it. I met a lady today, just random. She walked up to me at the gas station, and she said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question?" And I thought she was going to ask me where a product was in the store, right? she said, what do you think of Donald Trump? Now, she happened to be Caucasian, nothing wrong with that. And I said, well, I think he wants to, he says all Hispanics are Mexicans, and the Mexicans are murderers and pimps and all that garbage and drug dealers. And I said, because I have some of that in my family, I don't like bigotry. I think it's wrong. And she said to me, well, many of them are. And I was like, what? Can you believe that, Big C? Here she is, a Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes, and she believes that many of them are. That's why words are so powerful. Talk about that as an alternative fact, Big C.
Well, we're talking about, I'm still waiting on the 25 million jobs to show up in America.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most interested in. And, you know, I would get down on my knees and give him praise if he can create 25 million jobs over the next 4 years in America.
Yeah.
You know, he would be the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Now, well,
you know,
yeah.
You can't deal with, but I don't know if the 25 is accurate or alternative.
It's an alternative fact, Big C.
You know, I'm not sure, you know, how that goes, but, you know, it's like you spoke about his lovely spokesperson, Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah.
You know, when she's explaining things, she always gives the alternative.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're stating the facts, but let me give you the alternative so you can see our side.
Yeah, that's funny.
I looked at today when, you know, it was introduced, you know, looking at the screens at the airport, is that, you know, he wants to have this probe into the illegal voters in the United States. That there was some 3 million, which is a number that everyone, the popular goes by.
Yeah.
There was some 3 million illegal voters out there. Now, I got to look at the American government, not just him,
Yeah.
but the entire American legal system and judicial system. That how could something like that get by? You know, there's been an account over the past years. I think it was 1,100 illegal voters, the most they've ever had in the presidential campaign.
Yeah.
1,100. But you got to look at 2 people on his staff, Daniel and one other,
Yeah.
who registered to vote in 2 states, so they can cast 2 votes.
Yeah.
And look at the number of people that are registered to vote in 2 states. I'm registered in 3 myself.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm ahead of the class. I get 3 votes for my party.
Okay.
And so when you look at that, it's like you're the president now.
Yeah.
You're the president of the United States. And so I wonder what are all these detractors that he keeps throwing out there,
Yeah.
and why.
Alternative facts.
Why not be strictly about the business at hand, doing what you said you're going to do for America, instead of throwing out all these detractors and smoke screen that you're doing these other things that are irrelevant to American people who elected you to be the president of the United States. Let's get down to business. And you say you're going to make America better?
Yeah.
I don't know how you can make it much better. You know, it's a pretty stable country and has been for a long time.
Yeah.
So stop lying to the American public. Stop having your staff lie to the American public. Be honest. We elected you to be a grown man.
Yeah.
That's not some 12-year-old who got caught in the cookie jar.
Well, it's called alternative facts, basically, and it happened to me today. A lady was surprised that I said, well, if all Mexicans and Mexican Americans are murderers and rapists, I said that doesn't make any sense. She said, well, a lot of them are, and I said, well, during slavery and even in Jim Crow, most Black Americans were lynched by white men. Does that make all white men murderers? And she looked at me like she didn't understand what I was saying. She walked away from me.
I think about Governor Richardson, former Governor Richardson of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
I think about Marco Rubio, Senator.
Yeah.
Hispanic. You know, we've had many leading Hispanic Americans
Julio Cesar Chavez in California with the agriculture industry.
in public office,
Yeah.
civil service, law enforcement office.
Yeah.
You know, in entertainment. You know, the Hispanic Americans, Mexican Americans have led a leading role in the United States throughout time.
Yeah.
Okay. California was actually belonging to Mexico as well as Arizona.
Yeah.
Prior to, you know, Americans stealing it from them.
So what do they think of America's basically? What do they think of America? We took the land.
Well, anybody who wants to watch a newsreel from the 40s and 50s, even the 60s in America, the African Americans being lynched off in the
Yeah.
trees, you know, beaten, and we're not talking about the 18 and 1700s, we're talking about the 1900s.
Yeah.
These events being occurred, being attacked in inner cities by police, by
Yeah.
National Guard, by dogs, by water hoses. African Americans were not attacking people, Charlton. They were being attacked.
Yeah.
But, you know, their civil liberties were being abused.
Well, I tell you.
Regardless of what walk of life they had, whether they were a professional, whether they were a street person. They were all treated the same. They were not treated with rights and liberties of this country. So people want to label African Americans as criminals. I mean, there's a lot of them that have hardships that they have not gotten over.
Yeah.
But, you know, anyone who wants to do that and say that about African Americans, I think all America needs to go to the Museum of the National African History in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
If you really want to see what has happened to a culture of people over time, and is still happening to these same people in today's time, that it hasn't changed. It's only thing that's changed are the treatment of African American people in America, Charlton, is the state. That's all that's changed.
Well, it still goes on. When you think about what President Trump said about John Lewis, the last standing civil rights leader that marched with Dr. King over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, I asked her what she thought about John Lewis, and she said, "Who is that?" So that just tells you about some of the voters out there. But it is a great world, man, and we had a chance to agree and disagree. Hopefully, the Hollywood scene that has put on so many skits about the president, hopefully they'll be more inclusive, and they're hiring the people, because oftentimes Hollywood looks like the Trump administration. Big C, it's all segregated for the most part. But I do want to say this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. Today's Powerball, I think, is about $177 million, Big C. Big C, how many beads could you buy with $177 million, Big C? Your thoughts?
I think I might have to go rent a couple of small trucks.
Yeah.
I can put them all around the house. I wouldn't need that lawn anymore. You walk in my yard, it's setting off all the beans.
That's funny, man. That cracked me up. And so many great things in the world of sports. But I do want to also talk about the broadcast brethren. One of the greatest broadcasters that I've enjoyed over the years actually started doing this thing when I was a little boy. The great Brent Musburger, I think he's announcing his retirement next Tuesday, Big C, and it just happens to coincide with a lot of these old timers. And you think about guys that have been doing it that long at the top of the business. You think of Brent Musburger, you think of Al Michaels, you think of the great Keith Jackson, and the late Pat Summerall, Big C, and one of my favorite, the late Tom Kelly, a broadcaster of USC and broadcast over, I think, 5 national championship games, doing broadcasting when John McKay was a coach. Just your thought on Brent Musburger, a lot like you, doing this thing for 40 years, Big C.
Oh, Charlton, you think about the impact that Brent Musburger has had on sports.
Yeah.
Not just pro football, but on sports. His big break came with NFL Today, the original show of the NFL Sunday morning broadcast.
Yeah.
He started that out. He was with Herb Cross, Jay Kennedy, the first African American.
Yeah.
Female, period, on television doing sports. But, Brent Musburger's been a trailblazer. He started out in Atlanta years ago as the radio broadcaster for the Falcons.
Yeah.
And so, this man he moved up the chain. And, he was the premier game for many years on ABC, Charles.
Yeah.
Not just NFL, but ABC College Football. And after Keith Jackson left, he took over. He was the number one hot show. But, he had so many memorable phrases when he broadcast, but he had that iconic voice that you recognize a major event was going on, whether it was an NCAA championship. He did the last NCAA championship basketball game that was broadcast out of Rupp Arena. The last time there was a national championship game played there that just scored.
That's good knowledge. That's good knowledge.
He's done so many great events. The only thing he didn't cover, Charlton, I believe, was the Olympics. But he's done the NBA, he's done college basketball, he's done golf, he's done soccer, he's done hockey, baseball. But football was his trademark, Charlton. That voice led to the game because he could move his voice with the ebb and flow of the game. He would never outpace the game. You knew Brent Musburger was broadcasting because he wasn't the game. And that's the art of a great broadcaster, Charlton. Those are broadcasting, they're not the game. They let the game play itself out. He spoke when needed to reimburse what you had saw on television. To let that resonate a little longer. But Charlton, he wasn't there saying, hey, listen and look at me, like so many of these pretty guys now that are doing the games that have no substance.
Yeah.
We're losing we lost so many of the past iconic great broadcasters this past year. But when you think about Vince Scully being gone, Charlton, you think about my guy from NBC, and he was doing the Padres games. come to me, but this is the problem. Again, don't.
No, that's all those beads. You got too many beads in your moonshine, Dixie. Too many beads in your moonshine, Dixie.
But you think about so many things that are great leave you at one time.
Yeah.
President Obama, leaving the White House.
Yeah.
But, this is what has happened, and so, I wish him all the best. He's talking about he's going to be going to Vegas to set up a business with his children out there.
Yeah.
Whatever Chris Musburger does, he's going to be successful at doing it.
Yeah, and I recall him calling the Rose Bowl when
Dick Enberg, Charlton. Dick Enberg.
Yeah, Dick Enberg, great Dick Enberg. And when I think about Musburger calling the Rose Bowl, and I believe it was the one where Stanford ran all over Iowa just last year, and I can't recall how many more people other than you that can go back into history as if it's present, and that's what Brent Musburger would do. He would tell you this guy made a great play. It reminds me of the 1978 game of whoever played whoever, and a lot of people don't do that because a lot of broadcasters are not even born back in the day seeing those games. But that's what I'm going to miss, a guy that could do a game without a teleprompter, a guy that could do a game without a microphone or a producer in his ear that's maybe 20 years younger than him telling him what to say. I just appreciate the professionalism, and as we talk about that too, it reminds me of how lucky we are to live in this time. We still have the chance to listen to the great Al Michaels. I mean, here's a guy that's done everything. Do you believe in miracles? From that to just the way he's so smooth, like a sip of cool moonshine when he's doing his game. And Al Michaels, I believe he's from the Northern California Bay Area, Big C.
He's from the Bay Area, but also when you talk about the A-list of broadcasters, that everybody knew who they were. You didn't have to say that they were broadcasting games.
Yeah.
Big Scully. You talked about Keith Jackson, Rick Musburger. You just said Al Michaels, John Madden, Pat Summerall.
Yeah.
When you heard these individual voices, you didn't need to hear their names because you knew who they were. They were ingrained in your mind. They brought back memories of names that you had listened to themselves, and they all had an iconic phrase, an iconic game that they had done over time. Even Dick Enberg, Jonathan, that they had done and it set them apart. They were like Harry Carey with the Cubs.
Oh yeah.
You knew where they belonged. That voice was synonymous with a certain organization or a certain sport. And these are the rarities that we're missing and losing so much now, John, because people think it's about being pretty on television. It's not.
Yeah.
It's about being educational. We're losing education in every level in America. We're losing the education of these great sports broadcasters, Charlton, just like the great writers used to be in print.
Yeah.
When everyone wanted to sit down and read their article, not look at it on television, but they wanted to read the article because it puts you in place with their time and space, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's what we're losing with these iconic broadcasters who are riding off into the sunset. And you talk about Keith Jackson, he was at the Rose Bowl, and for a stand-up part there for a few minutes, during one of the quarters.
Yeah.
And to see him and to hear his voice, it was almost like he was doing the game.
Yeah.
Because when he talked, his presence was felt.
Well, I tell you this, there's sometimes when a lot of people, we call it the old school, the new school, and a lot of the new school, they just Google everything. I mean, I've seen so many reporters and broadcasters over the years, if the teleprompter broke, they were lost. And I'm not making fun of anybody, but it just means that almost anybody can get a job if you have the look, especially if you're Caucasian. They're just always putting someone up in front of a camera that they think the mainstream wants to listen to. But these old-timers, irrespective of what color they are, I mean, the great Irv Cross had an opportunity doing this thing back in the day with CBS Sports too. And I just think about, there's so much going on in their minds that you want to listen to them, and that if you had them reading a teleprompter, it would take away from their performance, Big C. Almost like going to see a singer, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or Stevie Wonder or the late Michael Jackson or even a Diana Ross or anyone that's great. You would not want to see them lip syncing. You want to see them speaking from their higher self, from their alchemy. You want to see them doing it real, and that's what I'm going to miss about Brent Musburger. Yeah.
You don't want to go to Mariah Carey concert?
Well, I think she was at the was it the ball that dropped in New York City, and they said that somebody. That's funny. She said that somebody set her up because she didn't know the words to her own songs.
I want to go back to the point that you talked about with the late Herb Cross.
Yeah.
Former defensive back with the Philadelphia Eagles years ago, Charles.
Yeah.
Herb Cross, Brett Musburger, Zane Kennedy, and Jimmy the Greek Snyder.
Oh, yeah.
The first multicultural, multi-diverse broadcast crew in television history, Charles.
Yeah.
When you look at that. And they all work so well together. You think of Jimmy the Greek, who was not a sports person, but he was a gambler.
Yeah.
You think of Herb Cross, who has been a tremendous defensive back in the NFL. You think of Brett Musburger, who was this young upstart who was just growing his career.
Yeah.
Jane Kennedy, former Miss America. And you bring all these people together, Charles. The two African Americans, Greek and Brett Musburger.
Yeah.
And he wasn't white.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He was Jewish.
Yeah.
So when you think about the diversity and the cultural ethnicity of that broadcast, CBS was a trailblazer in doing this back in the day.
Wasn't that amazing?
It opened the doors for so many other cultures, knowing that you didn't have to just be white.
Yeah.
To be an outstanding person representing a network on television.
Yep.
When CBS went out on a limb and did that, nobody else had ever thought about that before, y'all.
And
to have an African American woman, an African American man,
yeah.
a Jewish man, and a Greek immigrant during that broadcast. This was, a leap of faith, and they took it. And what a better place America was, showing that it could be diverse.
And Big C, I appreciate that so much because as African American men, the honest truth is a lot of white guys, they won't hire black Americans. They'll just hire the next white guy unless they're culturally sensitive, meaning they've been around different groups of people, and you realize that we're all the same. We're all Americans. We're all human beings, but there's still this unspoken thing where this glass ceiling is still there for women, and this white thing that's there, and you see it in the world of golf when they have the broadcasters. It's almost like they just look for this eugenic look where they just want, like Donald Trump's administration. How can we go from President Obama and even Bill Clinton, if you look at that, and even George Bush, to go into this Donald Trump eugenics, homogenous-looking White House as if we're back into the 1940s, where he criticizes one of the greatest civil rights leaders of all times, and people act like it's okay. And it's so powerful, words are, that a Caucasian lady walks up to me today, and she's probably in her 50s, and she says, "What do you think of Donald Trump?" And I said, "I think he's a bigot." And she says, "Well, I mean, we already went there, but I just want to see our diverse society, whether it's TV or Hollywood or sports. We see how important it is to have sports being diverse, Big C. Look at the Super Bowl. There's so much diversity in the NFL. It hasn't made the ratings go down because you have black Americans playing football. It hasn't made the ratings go down because black Americans are playing NBA basketball. And it has not hurt the ratings in Hollywood to have Denzel Washington, Sam Jackson, Will Smith, Viola Davis, Halle Berry, and all of the great actresses out there. It hasn't hurt. It only helps, Big C. What's taking people so long to go back to this segregated mentality that Donald Trump has, Big C?
Well, you got to realize something. It's like when Donald Trump was talking about John Lewis, said he's never done anything for his people.
Yeah.
Okay? They're basically the same age. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when Donald Trump was getting a pass on the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
When his dad had him 6 deferred from the Vietnam, 6, not 1, 6.
Wait a minute, Big C. You're saying Donald Trump that's tough on the Defense Department, he's going to build the Defense Department again. He didn't serve this country?
He did not serve the country. Matter of fact, Charles, he's talking about building up the military to send our young soldiers off to war, something that he dodged 6 times, 6 deferments. And so while John Lewis was out doing civil rights marches, Donald Trump was getting deferments and partying in New York. That was normal for him to go out and party while other young Americans, all races, Charles, African Americans, white, Hispanic.
Yeah.
And a lot of Hispanics have fought in every war that we've had since they're unpatriotic and they're all criminals. They have fought in every war that they can for America. Okay?
Yeah.
So, when people say these racist, bigoted things and not knowing, we have to question our commander-in-chief. Why did you need 6 deferments from Vietnam? Why did you not go Muhammad Ali got sent to prison and he failed all the tests going in? Donald Trump he was educated, so he wasn't going to fail any test, but he got deferments. I always have had a problem with that, Charlton. That people who get deferments, and I'm loving President George Bush even more now since Donald Trump is in office.
Yeah.
But he had 4 deferments, Charlton, from Vietnam. And so I always question, how can you dodge going to war fighting for your country, Charlton, but you can always feel so freely about sending other children to do that, saying, well, it's patriotic, it's your patriotic duty. What is your patriotic duty? What was your patriotic duty when you were their age?
Well,
these are the things we have to look at. When we talk about equality in America, Charlton, why should some people get a pass on defending the country when you're the same age as someone else? I had a brother, Charlton, that was an honor roll student.
Yeah.
Who did not get a deferment from Vietnam. He was on an academic scholarship and he had to go.
Yeah.
But he was African American. And he had never had a grade lower than 1B his entire time in school.
Wow.
And when you think about that, so I'm not saying that he was the most intelligent person or he was the least intelligent person. But if people say based on academics, you leave these people alone, you got to realize, Jonathan, how many minorities that have served in every American war have been honor roll students but could not get a deferment.
And I want to just get your thoughts on one more thing. Are you saying that Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, are you saying that when John Lewis and Dr. King were marching on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and all over the South to create civil rights and equal opportunities for all people, black and white, Asian, Jews, Gentiles, men and women, you're saying that Donald Trump wasn't marching for equality, Big C?
No, Charlie, he was in some nightclub in New York smoking a cigarette and having a martini. That's what he was doing.
Well, I think that's incredible.
And making racial slurs against other people because, Charlton, if you remember back in the 80s when there was this horrific rape in Central Park in New York.
Yeah.
And they arrested these 4 young African-American men, and they were all charged even though they were not there.
Yeah.
They weren't even in the park, but they found 5 and they said, hey, let's get them. Donald Trump took out a full-page ad asking for the death penalty for these people who had no evidence on them and were not even in the vicinity of this crime that had been committed. But since they were African American, they had to be criminals because they were young African Americans. That's always been Donald Trump's mindset. And if he felt that way in the 80s, Charlton, he hasn't changed today.
Well,
he didn't even think of that during his presidential campaign. He's still the same person he was back then.
Let me just ask you, because we always talk about sports too. Does Steve Harvey and Jim Brown know that he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to ask for the death penalty for men that look just like their kids, Big C?
I'm going to say that Steve Harvey knew. I'm going to say Jim Brown knew. I'm going to say Martin Luther King III knew, Charlton, as well as Don King, the former boxing promoter who had spent 7 years in prison on murder. Okay, I'm thinking all these people knew, Charlton. But, a dollar will make you turn a blind eye on anything.
Yeah, and so
when you think that you're advancing yourself, and you're not advancing yourself. Just because Donald Trump spoke to you doesn't mean that he's going to hire you and put you in a position.
Well, Big C.
Because the reason why he would not do that, Charlton, because these people are exposed to too many other black people.
Yeah.
So he's not going to put anybody that's got a big talk to those 2 black people.
Yeah.
That's his mother and his father.
Well, it's ironic that Dr. Carson is going to be head of housing as an African American, and I think it was Donald Trump's father. Okay. Well, Donald Trump's father had one of the largest lawsuits in the history of New York for discrimination in housing against African Americans. Big C. He would not get property to African Americans, but actually, it didn't stop him from being a part of whatever's going on in the world of politics. And I believe in forgiving people and turning the other foot, or what do they say, turn the other cheek. I guess you can turn your other foot too, Big C. But I do believe in giving people an opportunity, and we know that discrimination lawsuit that his father had in New York City, I'm not saying he should be held accountable for the sins of his father, but it just doesn't make any sense how so many things just don't make sense right now in our country. And I love this country, so I can speak about it. And I'm so proud that we had, I think, about 5 million people marching all around the country to say no more Archie Bunker type bigotry is accepted in the United States. And I also want to say this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed Life Insurance. Without asking any medical questions up to $100,000. We are also endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association. We work with all of the unions in the country. under the AFL-CIO, and we're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Now, I wish I was as wealthy as Donald Trump. I think he had over 400 investments in different corporations all over the world, Big C. I'm sure all those corporations are going to come back to America and give Americans jobs, Big C, at least in the sports business. Your thoughts?
I look at this when you talk about his inauguration.
Yeah.
And his press secretary came out and said it was the most viewed inauguration of all time in American history.
Alternative fact.
Alternative fact. But I also look at the march by the beautiful women of America on Sunday. Okay?
They were mostly white, Big C.
Not even that, Charles. I can only think, and I don't have the numbers, and I'm not a statistician. 1 plus 3 is hard for me to remember that was. But, when I think about the viewership and people that paid attention to that march, I would think in the United States, Charles, it was only eclipsed by a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could think that would be eclipsed by.
Yeah.
Because everyone paid attention. It was gripping. It was one of those things that kept you riveted. You're like, so many people have come together, not just women, Jonathan, but people came together. The voice, and I heard some commentators on certain channels like Fox saying, well, where were all these people? Why did they come out and vote? They did vote.
Yeah. Are you saying that Fox has a news channel, Big C? Do they still tell the news, or is it alternative? Is the alternative news?
The alternative news of Fox.
Yeah.
Came out and said, where were they at on the voting? They did vote. That's the reason why they came out in March, Charles.
Yeah.
Because their votes did not count.
Yeah.
They were told that their votes did not represent the truth.
Yeah.
Even though if you vote for a candidate in America and the candidate wins, your vote does not matter because we can elect the person that we want.
Yeah.
But these people, it wasn't that they were angry, Charlton. Is that they were serving notice to their congressmen, their senators, and their representatives.
Yeah.
That we will be coming after you because you don't want to represent us. This is the power we have. And this is what's beautiful about America, Jonathan. It's a country of free speech.
Yeah.
Is that you can go out in a non-violent way and not be threatened. And that's what happened that day. That was the unity of America. That was one of the most galvanizing days in American history, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Because you saw everyone out there. You saw sports figures. You saw politicians. You saw actors. You saw singers, Jonathan. You saw moms and dads. You saw the everyday person. You saw the dishwashers.
Yeah.
You saw cab drivers. You saw executives, Jonathan, out there representing America. And that's what America is. It's a multicultural, multi-diverse melting pot. And we saw the best of it on that March day.
Well, Big C, what struck me as a person, California is very diverse. A lot of people just interact and do whatever they want to do.
I saw your Congresswoman Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. Yeah, gorgeous, intelligent lady, and former California Attorney General. But I'm thinking most of the people, because it's a visual test, just like Trump's cabinet is like all white, except for, I think, Ben Carson. I think he's still African American. But everybody that I saw, it was about 90% Caucasian women that were marching against bigotry. That gives me hope for America. There was a time when people would be clandestine about it. They would be hush-hush because they didn't want to upset the status quo. But you have, I think bigotry is dead, and people are they're not going to tolerate it anymore. And there are always small groups that will, because they think it benefits them. But most people live to make life better for their future generations. And I would love to see our president succeed, but I can't support a bigot. Someone who wants to ostracize me are one of the greatest civil rights leaders in the history of the world that did a lot more for our country than Donald Trump ever has. And I wanted to say, I just want to hope that our country can come together. But I'm so proud of our right to protest and freedom of speech. It's never really hit home because we take so much for granted, whether it's sports, Big C, or politics. It's something that we cannot take for granted as Americans. I'll get your last thought on that, and we'll touch a little bit more on sports, Big C.
I like what happened with him today. It's like during his campaign, he told he was going to build this wall and Mexico was going to pay for it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden today, he flipped. He said, we're going to invest $20 to $40 billion in this wall. You American taxpayers are going to pay for it now. But, when you think about that, regardless of who pays for this wall, the American taxpayer or the Mexican government.
Yeah.
Which company is going to get the construction contract that he knows that he's done business with before?
Putin. That's going to Putin and Russia, Big C. Putin and Russia are going to do that.
That's what Americans failing to look at is the enrichment quarterback is going to be able to get these contracts. No, John.
No.
It's going to go to people that he knows. And this is what America, when they talk about draining the swamp,
Yeah.
let's be realistic. If he's building a border down there between the United States and Mexico,
Yeah.
a wall,
Yeah.
there's not going to be people from the Midwest down there working, John. There's not.
Yeah.
There's not going to be people from Iowa down there leaving the cornfield. There's not going to be people from North Dakota that voted for him, John. They're not going to be down there. People from Detroit are not going to be down there. So this is the thing you got to look at. Is he going to put the jobs in your state? Yes, the southern border would encumber a lot of states, Charlton.
Yeah.
But we got to look at not the workers, Charlton. Which corporations are going to make millions, even a few are going to make billions from building this wall?
Well, let me ask.
That's what you got to look at.
What's he gonna do? Is he gonna build a wall in the ocean? Because a lot of people use boats to smuggle whatever they smuggle. And is he also gonna build a wall underground? Because a lot of people do that too. Is he gonna build a wall for airplanes to stop airplanes from flying in too? Because that's mostly by Caucasian men who fly that garbage and they have the money to do it. And is he gonna build a wall to Canada and also Europe, or is it just Mexico, Big Z?
But the last time I checked out, the Rio Grande was water, and you can't walk out there with your dam, okay?
Yeah.
So the river will be open to cross, okay? And when you talk about the border, the Pacific Ocean, I think, still had a couple of feet left out beyond the shoreline. Around it, and even in the Gulf of Mexico, that's a pretty wide breadth of water.
Yeah.
All right, so and you're going to tell me nobody has a boat? They can use a boat, a raft, or whatever? We've seen people come from Cuba.
Yeah.
95 miles away on a raft.
Yeah.
So making it around Baja California is going to be tough. They're going to come up to Louisiana. They're laughing the whole time.
I think
Landon Houston.
I think a lot of people have to understand that there were sailors and merchants that sailed from Africa to the Americas and Europe to the America back in the 1700s, and they didn't have to worry about a wall, Big Z. So that's funny. But I just want to say also, in the world of sports, we have so many things going on, and I think the irony is the great Tom Brady, who's also an avid Republican fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. He can vote for any person he wants to. It's ironic that a lot of African Americans have made Tom Brady a great quarterback, whether it's playing defensive line or catching the ball for him or running the football for him, and he still wants to support a guy that does stop and frisk. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's about that bigot. It's funny how he hands off the ball to LeGarrette Blount, but he wants to vote for a guy who wants to make stop and frisk something that LeGarrette Blount has to worry about, Big C. Does that make any sense at all, Big C?
Well, when you look at a sports figure and who they support politically, Charlton, it's a fine line. Because, the media has rolled Tom Brady for knowing Donald Trump, and this was long before he became a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Robert Kraft and Donald Trump have done business together and known each other, been in the same social circles for decades.
Yeah.
Okay, this just didn't happen because he became a presidential campaign.
Yeah.
A candidate. But you also got to understand, Peyton Manning is in the same boat as Tom Brady.
Yeah, he's speaking at the He's speaking at the RNC. Yeah.
But Peyton Manning, you can't touch him.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a form of racism even in the white race.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't touch Peyton Manning because he's a spokesperson. He does all these commercials. We all know him. He's a lovable guy. He was a great guy that couldn't win, but he won a couple Super Bowls in the end.
Yeah.
He was always looking up his younger brother.
Yeah.
But he's as big a backer of Donald Trump as Tom Brady.
Yeah.
No one said anything about Peyton Manning. He's untouchable. So you have to look at this, y'all. Racism runs in every direction.
Yeah.
You can't ride one quarterback who's a current player versus one who's just retired, who's been a supporter just as long.
Well, Big C, let me ask you.
I don't say anything bad about Tom Brady that way because if you're going to get one, you got to get them all for supporting.
Well, let me ask you this question: how many Black American receivers and running backs made Peyton Manning a Hall of Famer, Big C?
Well, both of them, Jonathan. Both of them have become Hall of Famers because of that, Jonathan. When you think of the heights of their career, the most success that either one of them had, they had a great supporting cast of African Americans.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all of them had the same political outlook.
Right.
These are the guys who made them great. But, just because you're in the same locker room with somebody doesn't mean you always have the same opinion and views.
Yeah.
You're teammates, but you're not roommates when you get out of training camp.
Yeah.
Okay? So everybody has their life to live, but when we look at every
Hey, Jim Brown too. Don't think we're just picking on Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Jim Brown, one of the best running backs in the history of the NFL, took on a lot of racial slurs and a lot of garbage coming up, Big C. And that same garbage is embraced by Donald Trump, and he's in love with Donald Trump too.
I mean, so it's it's not about which athletes. I mean, it's the people that are there. And when you brought about Jim Brown's perfect point, you know, he walks right in like, you know, they've been buddy forever. Oh, Donald Trump, you know, what can you do for me?
Yeah.
You know, because I can deliver you this. But, you know, there's a lot of shallow people, regardless of culture, in the world and in the United States.
Yeah.
It's about a me scenario. You know, it's just like when we talk about our president-elect. You know, he's holding press conferences talking about me. You said you were going to work for America.
Yeah.
It was about you. But since you become elected, it's been about me. Every press conference is about what I'm going to do, what I'm doing. About me. You know, my crowds, my. You know, you sound like a 2-year-old. You know?
Well,
I thought my kids were grown.
Well, I think one of the ironies, and you know, Rush Limbaugh loves sports, and he's one of the bigots on the radio, also pushing that racism, that pseudo racism garbage, and he's a guy that's been hooked on drugs with the OxyContin and never went to prison for it, but he did get arrested. I guess he got arrested for it. I checked into rehab for it. Well, he has to understand that, you know, Rush Limbaugh is pro everything Donald Trump says, even though he's pro Putin too. They don't care about protecting the American democratic system. But all these guys love sports. I mean, his spokesperson's on the front page of USA Today. So we talk about it all on Big C Sports. But I just want to say, if they're going to crack down on drugs and make this a police state, will Rush Limbaugh have to get legal OxyContin, Big C, if that comes up anymore, Big C?
Well, I think that's why he and the group tried to put in a bid for the St. Louis Rams because he knew that the team doctors had great access to pharmaceuticals. And by being the owner, he did not have to worry about where he would get his drugs from. He hired team doctors that would always, you know, drop a bottle, not a bottle, but a box.
Wait, if they build the wall, if they build the wall, if Donald builds the wall, how's Rush going to get his OxyContin, Big C?
Well, you know, this is what we look at, you know, and this is what a lot of Americans don't realize.
Yeah.
Okay? We have the Affordable Care Act right now.
Yeah.
That has helped out many people, Charlton. It's helped out a lot of former athletes that didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
You know, when the NFL didn't have it for the old-time players. When the NBA didn't have it for the old-time players.
Yeah.
But you think about the number of Americans who take these bus day trips down across the border.
Yeah.
To get prescription medication that is like a quarter the price of what they would have to pay here in America.
In Mexico. Yeah.
4 times the amount in Mexico. And get the prescription written while they're down there. And this helps out so many senior citizens in America. And I think that's one of the things that people forgot about. I know Donald don't give a damn about them.
Yeah.
Is that we have all these senior citizens that are on limited incomes. We're not talking about the youth of America, the middle age of America, who can still go out and obtain employment.
Yeah.
We're talking about the grandmothers, the great-grandmothers, the great-grandfathers, you know, that are out there, that have these limited incomes, that need these medications to survive, to keep them going.
Yeah.
And Mexico has provided a way for that. So you can talk bad about all the Mexicans that you want, but you have to go and ask yourself, if your family could not afford the medication, they didn't have the insurance, and they needed to take these day trips to Mexico to get this medication.
Yeah.
Are you for building a wall and watching them die because they cannot afford their medication, Charles?
Yeah.
These are a lot of the questions that have not been put out. We hear, you know, that murderers and killers and rapists, but they have some of the best pharmaceuticals in the world for, you know, affordability.
Yeah.
And this is what people, even in Canada, Charles, we have Americans that live north and south in the United States. They either go to Canada or they go to Mexico to get their pharmaceuticals. And these are legal pharmaceuticals, the same pharmaceuticals that are produced here in America that you have to pay 4 to 5 times the price for the same product.
Wow. That's incredible.
So, no one said this during the presidential campaign that we're going to build this wall and we're going to keep these people out. So now you're gonna force these Americans that are on limited income, not like Donald, they're not millionaires.
Yeah.
They're on limited income. They're on that fixed check that they're waiting to come the first of every month. That you're gonna tell them that they cannot get their medication anymore because I'm rich and I go to any doctor that I want. But I don't care about you. That's basically what people don't look at the larger picture.
Well,
when they're looking at things. How many senior citizens Americans we have in this country? How many?
A lot.
How many millions that cannot afford health insurance or their medication, but so many of them cross borders, Charlton, to get it. Let these people talk about, keep those people out. Let them talk about about keeping somebody's great-grandparents or grandparents in when they can't afford medication and become deceased behind that.
Well, it's ironic. A lot of people that did not want Obamacare, they want the Affordable Care Act. It's the same thing. People start reading. It's the same thing. Now people want to fight to keep the Affordable Care Act, but they want to get rid of Obamacare. It's the same thing.
But hasn't Donald Trump campaigned on the lack of literacy in America?
Yeah, that's true.
Those are the people that followed him. They can't read what the deal is.
That's what.
That's Obamacare off to make it sound bad. But the one thing is the Affordable Care Act that was passed. They just call it Obamacare.
Yeah,
that's how intelligent his followers are.
There you go again with your alternative facts, Big C. I want to say this final segment is sponsored by Guaranteed Life Insurance, One Life America. We are the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we want to put people back to work. Also, Big C Sports is offering athletic insurance. We can insure you anywhere in the country in all 50 states, whether you're a professional or a collegiate player or even a high school or mom and pop soccer team. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports at Yes Charlton on Twitter. That's YES Charlton on Twitter. Also, follow us on the iHeartRadio network under Big C Sports. Big C, last thing I want to talk about, and I love this. It just goes by too fast. I'm glad you were able to find all those beads that you were. I don't know how you got the beads from New Orleans. I guess they give them out at airports. When I went to Hawaii, they gave me a lay around the. I mean, I was dumb when I went to Hawaii the first time. They say, hey, you go to Hawaii and get laid, right? You know how college men think. No, they put this thing around my neck. It wasn't the kind of stuff that people do down in Las Vegas, Big C. But I just want to. I'm glad you're back. But I want to say there's so much going on in the world of sports and politics and Hollywood. Hashtag Oscar so white. I love this talk of diversity because I think it makes America great. I want to bring up one more segment in the last 5 minutes. The great Tiger Woods is going to tee off, I believe, on Thursday in Southern California. There's a lot of Hispanics down there, so he's going to have to watch his purse, according to Donald Trump, Big C. But just what the energy that I'm getting from the golf world that's been kind of dormant. It's like a bear in the wintertime. Now that Tiger's back swinging the club, it means so much to the world of golf. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charles, when you say like wintertime, we are in the wintertime. And you think about golf being relevant in the winter.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, and now he's going to play 5 events. But that's the most exciting thing on the PGA Tour in a long time. You know, but Tiger will bring the crowds. He brings the interest. The network is exciting. You know, it starts tomorrow, and Tiger's playing, and so everybody's ecstatic about it. It's going to be down in La Jolla.
Yeah.
It's a Farmers Pro-Am. And you know, this Tiger Woods is the renaissance of golf. No one expects him to win, Charles. But if he's competitive, it's one of the greatest weekends in golf in the last decade. That's how important Tiger is to this game. You know, when you think about the growth of Nike in sports, okay?
Yeah.
Golf. Nike had not been in golf until they got with Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Well, Big C.
Nike golf was Tiger Woods. Ironically, when Tiger got out the game a couple years ago,
yeah,
Nike soon followed. They stopped producing golf equipment because Tiger Woods was that sales for. He was that advertising for Nike golf. He just signed with Titleist.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of players are with Titleist, now Titleist stock will go up because of Tiger Woods' involvement in that. You know, he can be 50 years old out on the tour. He will still have them follow him because he brings back something to everybody who's played the game of golf and those who aspire to play the game of golf.
Well, Big C.
I could be like Tiger. It was like I could be like Mike. It was I could be like Tiger.
I tell you, there's something about the world of sports that connects everybody from Hollywood to football and basketball and baseball. So many things that we do is because of the sports industry, and that's what I love about doing Big C Sports. And we'll keep bringing it to you, as we always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. Follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States. And also, Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. As we always tell you, there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know any woman in trouble, just call 911. Don't make her go through that garbage all on her own. And as we always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.